Welcome back to my channel, everyone. I am coming to you with a review of Learn Korean with BTS. I have finished the series, finally. It took a little longer than I thought it would, but that's because there were some weeks when I didn't use this at all. Just because I've been doing using a lot of other resources as well. So I just want to give my opinion, tell you what I like, what I didn't like, and if I think it's worth it. So if you didn't know, it's 4 books in the series. Came with a study note and sticker for a keyboard. I have not actually written in here. I've seen other people, but I haven't. As well as with the books, I didn't write in it either. But that also let me be able to go back through this series again later. And then it also has a speaker pen. Okay, so we're just not gonna go through every single book because the format is pretty much the same. So I did do a pre-order, and I can't remember which. I think the study note was maybe part of the pre-order, maybe, or like the first press or something like that. So this may not be available. Alright, so book 1 is a little different from the rest of the books because it does include like basically an intro, I would say. Like if you was to get an intro book, part of book 1 is what the intro book would focus on. So like learning Hangul, pronunciation, and I swear every single like beginner book used the same words to teach pronunciation. But this is pretty small. It gives you some handwriting practice as well. I just did everything in a separate notebook. So I would copy basically this down in the translation. So yeah, but that's basically it for beginner type stuff. Alright, so I'm gonna just pick a random chapter because like I said, they're all pretty much the same. I don't want to go through every single thing because alright, so here we go. Chapter, they normally have an overview. This is basically the format for every chapter. Right, so you get some vocabulary, expression, culture. So normally centered around a story or concept involving the main character Bora and some of her friends. So it always starts with some vocab. Scan QR code. This is like a little mini quiz. Maybe kind of like a pre-assessment. So yeah, scan it. And it's related to the topic. So like, what did the BTS members prepare? When you scan it, you'll see. So most of the time, you could just tell based off the video. Like, you wouldn't even have to really listen or read or understand. You could just see in the video. Right. So I would have to say probably one of the best features is the speaking pen. You don't have to have separate audio files or CD or anything like that. You can just use the speaker pen and scan it. Also, it has multiple languages, so you just tap the pen here and it switches between languages. So when you turn it on, it automatically defaults to Korean. So you can click on the picture or the word, then switch it to English.
English, cooked grains.
So you can also use this, I think, as a way to test yourself before you change it to English to get the translation and see if maybe you could figure out what the meaning is based off the picture. Alright, so then there's a story, or what they call episode, kind of like just giving you background information about what you'll be focusing on. And then they have expressions, so they normally would use like a grammar point in the expression, and then they kind of explain it. But as you can see, this is not that too detailed of an explanation, but I give you some sentences using the grammar point, and sometimes they include some extra, like maybe sometimes I might specifically focus on like past tense or something like that. And then another expression with a different grammar point, and then it kind of tells you how the grammar point is used or when it's used. So like here's some extra information, sentences involving the grammar point. Then they kind of combine the two into like a dialogue. So that's a good way to practice your pronunciation, listen to it. So when you click here, it would just read it automatically, or you could just tap on a sentence. If there's a period, a lot of times it does stop after the period, and then you have to type on the rest. And then they always include like extra vocabulary. And then the pronunciation, so this is also like the quiz. There's only going to be one right answer. And when you hear that sound, that means you got it right. This one, wrong. Right. So pronunciation, and then again, focusing more on pronunciation with this kind of dialogue or vocabulary. Right, and then you get into the exercise. So focusing on the grammar, sometimes involving conjugation of verbs and things like that. Most of the time it's like 2 different exercises involving both grammar points. Sometimes it's just one. So like this one, for this grammar point they only have this, but for this grammar point they have this up here and this down here. Right. More practice this time involving listening. So you can either scan the QR code, it's normally to watch the video, or you could press this and listen to it.
젓가락질 못하는 이유가 있어요. 배고프니까. 아니에요. 방금 집에서 턱걸이를 10개 하고 나왔더니 팔이 후들거리네요.
Yeah, so it can be very difficult to understand. I will say though that either most of the time it's grammar or one of the vocab. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier, because even sometimes with the video, and the video does have captions, but sometimes it's not correct. So don't rely on the captions from the video. And so listening, and then writing. Normally this is also doing one of the grammar point, using one of the grammar point. And then of course, some more vocabulary. And then culture. And then something with Tiny 10. And then like ending encouragement.
I'll love you, Army.
So that is the format of the book. The book series. Alright, so each book, I believe it is 6 chapters. Yeah, 6 chapters. That means there are 24 chapters. And then plus that beginning portion. So the cost for all of this is $88. Is that a good value? Well, because I don't think that you're not really paying so much for the Korean content as the fact that it involves BTS. So, and also I think this probably has a good amount to do with the price as well. This technology. If it had MP3 files or CDs, I think the price might be a little less, maybe, but who knows? But since it's related to BTS, that's also it. So let's get into the review. Alright, so I first bought this, like when I saw that BTS was releasing this, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I want to learn Korean, because I had not thought about learning Korean before that until I saw this. So I bought this thinking I'll be able to learn Korean. And there's not, you can't just use one resource and think that you can become fluent, because there's just not one resource that can give you everything. But I do think that I did learn from this more than I thought. I will say that this is not for beginners, which I didn't know when I purchased this. They recently just stated that this is for intermediate. And they did that because they're releasing the Tiny Tan material, and they're saying that that is for beginner. And I don't know why they released this first and not the other one first. But right, so this is geared more probably towards upper beginner / lower intermediate. However, you can learn from it, and it does include some basic like beginner type things like numbers, introducing yourself, saying where you're from, colors, months, things like that. But I think the purpose of this is to help you get around as a tourist. So if you just want to be able to like order food and go shopping, maybe take the public transportation, and that's all you really care about, then you could probably get this and you'll be able to get around with that, I think. I have seen some other people saying that they wish it included more exercises, which it could, maybe they could make a workbook later on that includes more exercises based off the grammar points and that they introduced in the book. And I'm guessing maybe later down the road they might come up with the advanced something, maybe. But also the format is, I think you could make your own sentences using the grammar points they give you, maybe some of the vocabulary they give you. Just make your own and then have someone check it. There's so many other resources that I know out there where there are people who are willing to check work, like language exchange, where you don't even have to pay for it. Or if you want to, there are services where you can pay for that. So, and I think you probably would actually learn more if you make your own sentences and examples. So I think it is worth it. Just know that it's not going to teach you everything. It does also include the answers in the back, so you can check your answers and see if you're right. I kind of wish there was more explanation for some of the grammar point, but the focus of this is not grammar. I think it's more on speaking. Overall, worth it to me personally. It did actually help. It's kind of hard when you're self-studying to know if you're actually learning something, which is why I decided to take some classes, and like beginner classes, but I was able to understand and speak, like read in those beginner classes because of this series. So yeah, that's just my opinion on Learn Korean with BTS. So I think I'm going to make this a series because I do have other books that I'm using. So when I get done with other one, I will review those as well. So stay tuned if you're interested in learning Korean and you're looking for some book resources. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video.